Hello, welcome to another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. I'm Lady Trinette Wilson, your lecturer and social historian. Here we tell great stories, black stories about culture, community, all sorts of things. So I want to thank you all for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And today I have a great episode for you. As you know, we just completed a really bruising election season. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump faced off. And in the end, the Republicans not only won the election for the president, but they also won the Senate and the House. So people are doing a lot of self reflection. The Democratic Party is doing self reflection. During today's episode, I would like to talk about what came out, which was she raised $1 billion and ended up 20 million in debt. Now, let me say allegedly because the campaign reports haven't come out, but they are leaking. And they're saying that people are afraid that they may not even get paid. When you barrel down into it and kind of take a look at what money was spent, a lot of it was spent on people like this. Meg the Stallion. Rumor has it that she was paid $5 million. Oprah was paid $1 million. And we don't know what Beyonce was paid. So by paying for all of these parties and good time vibes and feels, it didn't help her win the election. But Kamala wasn't the only one who liked a good time. Today you're going to learn about an heiress who squandered a lot of her mother's money away because of parties. Now, everybody may recognize this face. Her name is Madam C.J. Walker, and she was, in effect, the first black female millionaire in the United States. Now, at the time, there were other women who were doing hair and also had hair products, but their game was nowhere near Madam C.J. Walker's. She understood marketing, she understood how to make women happy. And by the time she passed away, her business was worth $1 million. She passed away in 1919. Today, that would be around $30 million. So she left her daughter a boatload of money, but her daughter had been raised as a rich girl. And so we see how this heiress spent her money. Born June 6, 1885, in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Alelia Walker was the only daughter of Moses and Sarah Breedlove, who later became Madam C.J. Walker. Now, Alelia actually was born Lilia McWilliams, but she changed her name and added an A during the Harlem Renaissance in order to give it a little bit more cachet. And back in those days, they like to add all kind of little apostrophes and A's to make themselves seem a little bit richer, a little bit more cultured, if you will. So Alelia, she grew up in St. Louis and attended Knoxville College in Tennessee before entering the family business. So as soon as she graduated from college, she walked right in to being the director of operations of the East Coast for the Walker Company. And so how nice is that to be able to walk into a job like that? And so Sarah, or Madam C.J. Walker, she bought two brownstones in New York near Lenox Avenue, and she combined them. So this was on in Harlem, and on the first floor she used it for a parlor, and on the second floor it was the College of Beauty and Culture, where she taught women how to do hair. And Lilia, she basically lived and entertained on the top three floors. Now, she was only 21 years old at the time, so you can only imagine. She really spent her time partying. She hosted a lot of different parties. A rumor was that she loved new cars, jewelry, and clothes. And she did not spare a dime or a penny on any of it. She spent every dime that she received. Unfortunately, she didn't really pay attention to the business. In fact, she didn't run it from day to day. F.B. Ransom, the attorney for the company, actually is the one who ran it, and he was in the Indianapolis headquarters. So I've already told you she was in New York. She wasn't really paying attention to the business. And in fact, she really was a great patron to the Harlem Renaissance. She loved classical music and opera, so she spent a lot of time on that type of stuff and giving money to those types of people. And in fact, the apartment that they lived in. Do you know that the founder of the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, he was the first black architect licensed in New York State, Vertner Tandy, and he's the one who designed this apartment that she was living in. So they had a great time. People who attended her parties were people like Langston Hughes, Caravan Vecton, um, Courtney Cullen. So she always had somebody at her house. Florence Mills. So they partied at her house. And in fact, she changed her house and called it the Dark Tower. And so this is where she entertained all of her guests. So she was ever expanding for a good party. Oddly enough, though, this lady named Mabel Hampton. Now, Mabel was a lesbian back in those days, and Alelia really opened up her door to anybody, black, white, lesbian, straight, whatever. If you wanted to have a party, you could go to Alelia's house. But the thing about it was very interesting as we listened to the P. Diddy saga and the talking about freak offs and things like that. Well, Mabel said that back during those days that you could only see people walking around naked and having sex in the open at Alelia's parties. So I don't think freak offs are new with P. Diddy. I think they've been going on for a long time. And Alelia was a big, tall woman, and a lot of times people said that she was a gay, but she said she was not. In fact, she married 3 times um, to all men, and there was never any salacious rumors or anything during the time about her being with the woman. So most people do believe that she was not that. So as you can imagine, with her a propensity for partying and good-looking men and being remarried, money started to dip, and I mean really dip. Around the Depression time, about 1929, the Walker Company really lost a lot of their money, and she didn't change her lifestyle that much. As you're looking here at the beautiful Madam Walker's villa there in New Jersey, beautiful home, and allegedly during the time that they were suffering financially because of Lilia spending all the money. Of course, Madam Walker was gone by then, but it is rumored and alleged that Alelia actually had to sell items out of this beautiful home in order to meet her bills because, of all the partying. She tried to sell the home, but she really couldn't. And everything that she sold in the home that she auctioned off, it was really worth $300,000, but she was only able to pull in about $55,000 from everything that she sold. Gone was the jewelry, the cars. I mean, all of it was gone. She even had to pawn her own personal jewelry. So her money management was not that good. And the thing about it is people will be with you when you have some money, but when that money get low, the phone calls stopped coming as often. And so she didn't have as much money. And in fact, the Madam C.J. Walker, her estate, still does tours there of her home. So if you ever get a chance, make sure you check it out. Another thing she spent a lot of money on was the marriage of her adopted daughter, May. And so she spent equivalent of today $600,000 on her daughter's wedding. Alelia was known as the joy goddess of the 1920s, and so she was a really happy woman. She was involved in community, church, and women's group, and she traveled extensively during the 1920s. She went to Africa, Ethiopia, all throughout Europe, and she was well loved and really well known. And so, she lived like any other heiress did at that time. They had a lot of money, didn't learn a lot of responsibility as a child growing up because they had a lot of money, so she didn't have to work. And even after she took over for her mother, she still didn't do a good job at, running the company. And let me tell you, her people who were waiting on the people would be dressed to the nines. White wigs, she played for photographers, caterers, and she would even have a full orchestra when she had her party. So, even though she spent all the money or a whole bunch of the money, she sounded like a really fun girl. And she sounded like she had a great time. And it's really wonderful to know that an heiress, a black heiress during the 1900s, lived, had a great time, and Madam C.J. Walker's actually, her legacy still lives today. So it was smart that they put other people over the company and the Joy Goddess could do what she wanted to do. Alelia Bundles wrote a book about her. She's great great grandmother. And I think you will find out even more about Alelia by reading this book. Sadly enough, she actually died from the same causes as her mother died. So Madam C.J. Walker died in 1919 of kidney disease caused by high blood pressure or hypertension, and the same thing actually happened to Amelia, but with her, she had a really bad headache. It said after a night, she had dined and overate on lobster and cake and champagne. She was a little overweight. And that night, in 1924, she had a stroke. And so it took about 7 years, on August 17th, 1931, when she died. She was only 46 years old. You know, you all really have to take good care of yourself. If you do have high blood pressure, diabetes, or anything like that, drinking, eating cakes and lobsters, that's going to catch up with you. So take better care of yourself. So back to this $20 million that allegedly Kamala Harris spent on her campaign, or still in debt with her campaign. It's easy to do if you're partying, as Lilia probably could tell you. That ends my show today. I hope that you really enjoyed it, learned a lot about Amelia Walker and what happened to the fortune of Madam C.J. Walker. Again, you can take a tour there today, and I hope that you enjoyed another great episode of Royal Black and Elite.